Yo, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. It's afternoon where I am at 6 p.m. West Coast. I'm your host, Joseph Daniel Pena. Welcome to my channel, 509 Divine Pines. My link tree is below so you can like, subscribe, share. Today we just got some articles to cover, man. All right, man. First thing on board, building with 200,000 chickens and farm equipment burned in Minnesota. As you can see, big flames. They had to contain this over days. There was multiple problems. Really, this is like dozens in this year specifically. Over the last few years, it's beyond too much to count. Like if you're looking at how this NWO was structured, this is what they want to do. They want to stabilize the nation, and one of the ways is, hey, they're gonna have to go ahead and attack our food supply. And yes, they go ahead and try to modify our food supply. The richest people try to buy all the farming land. They try to classify the poison food as the safe food and all the healthy food as the bad food. And they try to feed all your kids the bad food. They try to feed us the bad food. I was like, no, 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 I ain't with that. Started sticking to it again a few years ago, never looking back. Man, my body's fine. See this right here? A Minnesota barn containing 200,000 chickens and an agricultural equipment dealer burned down in two fires. The chicken farm belonged to Foreman Farms, a major egg producer that sells 3 million eggs per day. The specific building that was destroyed Saturday on the company's Howard Lake farm was described as a substantial facility. Said tens of thousands of chickens were killed. Jeez, dude. That looks super severe for all my viewers at home. Fortunately, not too many people were killed or hurt. Sorry, no one was killed, and I don't think anyone was hurt. Oh, yeah, nope. They said there was no foul play, but yeah, I don't know. That's very fishy. It's really fishy that this just keeps happening and happening, and people are wondering why prices are going up. Well, this is why. All right, man. Next on, we got China building a secret facility in Cambodia. Hey, you know what else in Cambodia? That ancient city that I can't even pronounce here. They just had dug some archaeology upon it recently, actually, just a few years ago. And so China is now in Cambodia building a secret PLA naval facility, Western officials say. China is secretly building a naval facility in Cambodia for the exclusive use of its military, with both countries denying that its case and take extraordinary measures to conceal the operation. So they just don't want people to know about it, but we know about it, and that's just on the other side of where Hawaii is at, and so continue past Hawaii, and then you got Cambodia. I mean, you got the Philippines in between, but it's not too far. So who knows? They might be using that for some ancient archaeology. See, that's how the military plays. If you know how the military and NASA and SpaceX is in Florida in certain parts, and they want to have Cuba in the certain remnants that have been rumored to be there by a man, and then these rumors were led to be true. We're talking about the Bimini Islands and yeah, the archaeology there. So if the military is the same way with China as it is with America, then you can bet for sure these dudes love their ancient sites. And yeah, yeah. China's only base right now is a naval facility in the East African country of Djibouti. So that's an interesting thing. So China has a military base East African country. Why are we? Is that for mining diamonds or is it for any other reasons? Is it for mining oil? Is it for control of the Nile? That's an interesting place for China. We assess that the Indo-Pacific is an important piece of China's leaders who see the Indo-Pacific as China's rightful and historic sphere of influence. They view China's rise as a global trend towards a multipolar world where is mostly a surface in the perceived sphere of influence. Beijing, the official said, is banking on the region being unwilling or unable to challenge China's core interests, and through a combination of coercion, punishment, and inducement of diplomatic, economic, and military realms, it believes it can get countries to bend to its interests. Essentially, China wants to become so powerful that the region will give in to China's leadership rather than face the consequences. So maybe this is more and more why we're seeing so much fuss and so much movement right here in the Pacific. And now we see China wanting to have a social agreement like I discussed yesterday. So they want to go ahead and sign all these nations together. They're building a secret naval facility in Cambodia. They want to make it a free market, but they want to keep on doing more over there. All right, in the Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific. Hey guys, it's just something to be aware of. They're stepping all their feet across that land and making their way down to Australia. Australia just got a new prime minister, right? So if they can just go ahead and continue to show major power and influence with technological new pieces and agricultural plots of land and so forth that China could go ahead and pour money into with all their resources, then yeah, these guys can easily take over. I mean, considering that most of the world is in uh, nearly a state of pandemic, time for China to sink down. Only to do the right thing, I suppose, but who knows with the way these guys are. The Cambodian embassy disagrees with the content and meaning of the report. Accusation motivated to negatively frame Cambodia's image. It added that Cambodia firmly adheres to the nation's constitution, which does not permit foreign military bases on Cambodian soil. The renovation of the base serves solely to strengthen the Cambodian naval capacities to protect its maritime and combat maritime crimes, including illegal fishing. So China is making a huge fuss about it, saying that they're going to take over or assert their dominance, but Cambodia is saying, nah, no, they're not. Well, you can imagine some type of feud starting here, maybe, or maybe China will just buy everything out like they always do. The two governments have taken pains to mask the presence of Chinese military at Reem. For instance, foreign delegations visiting the base are permitted access only to pre-approved locations. During these visits, Chinese military personnel at the base wear uniforms similar to their Cambodia counterparts or no uniform at all to avoid suspicion from outside observers. So they make everything about this place very classified, and anybody going up there is like on top level security. They don't want anybody knowing what's happening there, and yet if I bet it has something to do with this next article, which I had referenced. The ancient city of man. I'm gonna butcher it if it pops up when it pops up. But yeah, I will butcher it. So those are an ancient city that was found recently in Cambodia, right? And you know how these dudes do. When they discover an ancient city, they really go all the way down. See, what most people don't know about ancient cities is that most of these architects and the tops of the cities are about 1/10 of what's really there. So there's like another 9/10 hidden beneath the ground, like in tunnels and caves, right? And like the militaries of these days have the technology to go down and discover stuff. And so when they do that, they like really like get in there and discover a lot of things. So they pull technologies, they pull artifacts, they they a huge boost in all platforms and now that they're taking these things serious. I mean, they've been taking these things serious, but now it's getting to the point where it's out in the open. Like things like Indiana Jones and movies like that were never really alive. Here you go. Ancient lost city of the Khmer Empire uncovered in Cambodia. This got 2 years ago, right when all this worldwide change and pandemic started happening. Researchers have identified the exclusive lost city of Cambodia for the first time in a project that has spanned years. An international group used aerial laser scans and ground surveying to the map of Mahendra Parvata, or the of Indra. The first time lasted from the 9th to 15th century, but mostly known comes from the inscriptions recovered from other sites. Scientists theorize the city was located on the Kulin Plateau, the Phnom Kulin Plateau, about 48 kilometers north of Selam Reap, but it was difficult to find evidence the plateau was remote. Right? Remember, there's a base right there. Okay, so it's nothing. They're gonna go ahead and build a tunnel. 30 miles gets cut down, and way easier. It's like 25 miles. Well, kind of maybe when you start going across and finding actual like civilizations and cities underneath the ground. And yeah, so yeah, man, the plateau is remote, inaccessible, covered with vegetation, and potentially home to what? Landmines? Did they say landmines? Oh yeah, potentially home to landmines. Right there from the Khmer Rouge regime in the 1970s. Shrouded in mystery for decades, Mahapendrata has been dubbed the Lost City. Now scientists have identified it for certain. Here we confirm, based on a cumulative body of evidence, that Mahanjeta the 8th to 9th century AD capital of the Khmer Empire, was located at the Nam Kulim Massif. The researchers used airborne laser scannings and the unique ability to see through vegetation and provide high resolution models of the forest floor. They had to map the area in 2 separate operations: 2012 covering about 37 square, and in 2015 covering the entire mountain range and an area of 975 square kilometers. The result of the aerial mapping, along with the information collected by the field investigation, were used to create a map that shows the newly discovered main pass and coordinate news. Oh, coordinate axis. The the map details location features of an unfinished reservoir, several dams, and enclosed wall temples, and even a palace. Here's the map, guys. Map of this. I'm gonna pull it up. Let me do that. Exit that. I don't know. information, more information. That's pretty good. Well, you can see the map still on the left side. And yeah, that's an ancient city, I suppose. So over in Cambodia and China are building a naval base, right? To maybe catch and such. They're actually in China and Cambodia studying this ancient city of Mahabharata. I can pronounce it. The king of the gods is what they call it. These discoveries opened the door to learning about a Khmer Empire and the Angkor region. The map shows that the city used urban planning, a sophisticated hydraulic system, and other innovations. So they see it's very ancient and very intricate. And if you see the city in here, um, okay, there might show some better pictures down below. I'm going to for you and show you how intricate it is because it is such a beautiful city that you are wondering who made this. And when they call it, remnants of the king of the gods, and it is, you wonder how interesting. So, so guys, you guys can like, subscribe, share below, tell your friends. Right here is where these guys are building a lot of research and bases in such 30 miles. That's honestly like 15 minutes when you're going 100 miles per hour, like 20 minutes. Okay, like man, check this out, guys. So this is just I wouldn't say discovered, but more and more like was discovered about it. There's like a huge city complex underneath all this, much larger than what we're seeing, with a lot of artifacts, runes, possibly skeletons, and you know how that they like to try to clone ancient skeletons and ancient creatures, right? My last video about like a couple weeks ago about cloning. They showed a lot of cloning, and if they're just over there in ancient cities, you can bet that they find stuff that they want to clone. I'm just saying that because I definitely know that from all the articles. You can tell the Russia wants to clone Scythian warriors. I know for a fact that China wants to clone as much ancient stuff as the Russians are. Check this out, guys. This is amazing. People eating hot Cheetos didn't build these, all right? Yeah, all right. I'm gonna go on to some two articles that really should keep us curious on why these are happening and why this is happening. Really, as China goes and tries to dominate their name and forest in the Pacific, and our West Coast looks for simulatory and information on defensive measures and statistics. And here an article from Business Insider. A 4.4 billion U.S. destroyer was touted as one of the most advanced ships in the world, but now it's being called a failed concept. See, I actually remember this ship. Everybody probably remembers this ship. Like they tried making a huge deal about it. And look, it got touted as a failure. So this is where our tax money is going. And You can see it. They're talking about it years later. Yeah, okay, well, this U.S. Zoom wall is the largest destroyer in the world, and it's a failure. Wow. The U.S. Navy's three Zoom Walk class ships cost about 22.4 billion in research and development, but one expert says that despite the expense, the Zoom Walks are a failed ship concept. So they're really spending 4.4 or 20 some billion on failures and failed concepts. Man, look at what America's doing. Well, I'm not even gonna ask if Bill Gates can even properly grow food on his land when he bought all this land, but I'm sure all of his crops are gonna fail too. But for us, on the organic side, mm, hopefully not. Well, let's just see how it goes. Next article: the Navy has discovered that the Navy's shipbuilding plan could lose a war in the Pacific. Wow, guys, it's like they're either trying to hint at something or they're really trying to prepare and change it and call out our Navy and call out our defense because we don't want another Pearl Harbor. See, we already knew about the attack hours in advance, but our president just needed to let it happen in order for an excuse. The Navy's 30-year shipbuilding plan reveals a broader fight with the Defense Department. The issue is not strategic, but operational and forceful structure. How to transform the Navy to ensure it can deter and defeat China on a large scale in the Pacific War. As in World War II, a vital issue is the role of heavy amphibious assault ships in the Navy strategy. Navy services should grasp the largest warships as it will play in the Pacific War. The Navy shipbuilding plan should reflect this and include a significant amphibious element to ensure its ability to fight and win the Western Pacific. The Navy's current plan is to understand this out of touch strategic reality. At minimum, the battle force will shrink to the level of just under 300 ships, 280 ships by 2027. So there's 20 ships left, but I mean the technology on these ships are going to be so much more improved. They're going to have all these crazy technologies like shields and lasers, high energy lasers. So the Navy then presents three alternative force structures, each with a transition period that expands the fleet to slightly under 300 ships. Under the most amphibious plan, the Navy will then reach 355 ships by 2043. Under the other two plans, it will cap out in the mid 320s. So the Navy has foresighted three plans in which America has gone by 2043, I guess. And it's either going to need less ships, more ships, or around 320 ships. We'll swing and see what happens, I guess. Numbers alone do not tell the whole story. The Navy's current scheme under all three of its plans will include at least one amphibious ship by 2032. This nominally aligns with the requirements of the Marine Corps has outlined a force of at least 31 amphibious warships versus the Navy's desired 25 amphibious warships. So they're going to have a lot of warships in the water. Two facts must be grasped. The role of amphibious warships in the strategy and operation planning sort of warships as the sea services require. Aircraft carriers and submarines receive the greatest attention in public discourse. This is reasonable. They are central pillars of the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy. The American supercarrier remains the world's most flexible combat platform. A service combatant with the Burke-class destroyer or the Arsenal ship in the 1990s missiles and air defense systems. The carrier's air wing can be retasked to virtually any mission, the only limit being the air wing's composition and armament. By contrast, submarines use their natural stealth to avoid the surface, and air defenses can threaten surface combatant and carriers penetrating the anti-access network that China has constituted over the past 2 decades. So, if China is now trying to build its armament even more, and maybe it's using ancient technologies, but it's also reaching out to many nations and trying to instill itself with a huge agreement and its power. Well, then, yeah, I definitely could see how this be an issue if our our defensive measures right now would not be enough. Interesting time for this article. Defensive more distributed basing system would reduce the G strike, while the distribution of offensive systems across different platforms, known as distributed maritime operations, enable parlance would prevent a knockout punch. Nevertheless, a war would not end simply because China failed to knock the U.S. and its allies on fight, and given the number of missiles China fields, it diversifies the delivery systems and general inadequacy of the U.S. and allied air defenses. Some damage, albeit catastrophic damage, is likely. Conflict would instead shift to another phase. China would recognize U.S. superiority in undersea warfare. It's likely counter to its flood the Taiwan Strait with surface combatants and push submarines out into the Philippine Sea. Similarly, they could harass U.S. warships with long-range missiles. Also, on board Chinese assaults against the Ryukyu Islands, seeking to establish an anti-submarine cordon around Taiwan and forward staging points for its missile bombardment. Here, amphibious forces are most relevant. The Marine Corps has begun to experiment with littoral maneuvers, standing with the 1st Marine Littoral Regiment on March. Marine doctrine emphasizes the rapid redeployment of anti-light ships from island to island. Amphibious warships law would support the laws of the law with design to transport 75 Marines in one or two anti-ship missile platoons, delivering them from an island and then pick them up and reposition them after a rapid engagement. LAWs will operate in 7 to 9 ship quadrants, ideally pairing with a traditional amphibious assault ship for command and control. Everybody, the whole plan, like if things would happen, you should probably want to keep these game plans secret. At around $100 million each, the LAW is far cheaper than a standard amphibious assault ship. It also is larger than a connector. The military term for a small amphibious ship is a landing craft cushion. However, the LAW is slow with a top speed of 14 to 15 knots, increasing this will raise the ship's cost. So I don't want to spend more than make it go faster. Of course, survivability is not as strong as the requirement is for a tier 2 plus ship that can protect its crew despite heavy damage but cannot continue fighting. The LAW has only one weapon, a 30 mm gun weapon system, previously usual combat ship, with increased defensive armament or improvised armor and compartmentalization will increase costs. So, the Navy plans to purchase 30 of these bad boys, LAWs, 2023, with delivery probable by the early mid 2030s. If China invests in sufficient munitions and drones and can blanket and fortified positions by the first island chain. So these, yeah, okay, America is really building ships to try to combat China in the and we're seeing more and more. It's going to be China and America, and like we're gonna see things go down where some countries may not want to take part in China's games. I'm not sure if we're going to see another Tonga, but we're going to see some things go down in the Pacific. As we know from the videos, Tonga was definitely not what we think it was. It wasn't no natural event. Uh, I might be able to pull up the article. Or conspiracy theory about it.